Well, though, meanwhile, the Kremlin is lashing out at the U.S. and our allies after President Biden gave Ukraine the go-ahead to fire the long-range missile that we've provided deep into Russia. The missiles are targeting Russian military sites that are used by Russians to savagely attack our ally, Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin with this warning about the use of those missiles.
We consider ourselves entitled to use our weapons against military facilities of those countries that allow their weapons to be used against our facilities. I recommend that the ruling elites of those countries that are hatching plans to use their military contingents against Russia seriously think about this.
Rebecca Koffler, strategic military intelligence analyst, former Defense Intelligence Agency official, joins us now. Rebecca, always good to see you. You know, many say President Biden should have given the green light to use these long-range missiles long before to push Putin back and help Ukraine. What do you think will happen now that Ukraine is using them and Putin retaliated, in a sense, by using this new hypersonic missile?
So we war gamed this scenario, exactly this scenario back in the intelligence community. And we are right now on the escalation ladder, inching towards a nuclear war. It's not going to happen today or tomorrow, but the way that it happens, Eric, the Russians and the United States are de facto right now in a war. Why is that? It is because those attackers don't fire by themselves, even though Ukrainian soldier technically can push the button, but the targeting of the weapon systems, ensuring that there's a proper flight trajectory of the missile, that it destroys the right target, the actual battle damage achieved that we wanted to achieve. It all requires U.S. personnel and U.S. satellites. This is why the Russians have stated that the United States and European targets are now in crosshairs. And
yes, they are in the crosshairs with everything that initially is going on with the full drama that is taking place. But more importantly, I'm kind of disappointed with the way how things are being handled with the House of Representatives. But I know Trump is going to try to reverse everything with some sanctions and try to get things in order. But it seems like Biden's trying to sabotage everything currently right now at the moment. And it's not looking good whatsoever with the way how the direction how things are looking with the country. Now we're getting pushed and involved in this whole entire war that's going on in Ukraine. And it's a mess from my own personal opinion.
Every war game that we conducted back in the intelligence community ended up in a nuclear war. There was an escalation ladder, and the Russians have mapped that out in the course of 20 years, and we're on it right now.
Well, some supporters say, Ukraine has the right to defend itself, that it's just targeting Russian military sites that are attacking Ukraine, and this is perfectly legal and appropriate under international law.
Absolutely. From the standpoint of the laws of conflict, Ukraine is entitled to its defense. And this is what the United States has been doing. But there's a rational approach, and then there's an irrational, a senseless one. And President Biden himself, just 2 years, he told his DNC donors at the fundraising event in New York, he explained that the reason why he was not providing those strategic missile systems at the time in quantities and needed for Ukraine to actually make a difference on the battlefield is to prevent World War III. Biden also said that the threat of nuclear Armageddon is real. Problems. And so what he has done is a 180. So it's unclear right now why he's doing it, but whether he's trying to walk us into this war, yes, absolutely. There's a difference between the right and between the actual reality. And the reality that we are in, we are inching very steadily to the unthinkable that was gamed out by the U.S. intelligence community and the U.S. intelligence community as recently as September advised President Biden against providing the ATACMS because Putin would likely retaliate, including with lethal means, against the United States and against Europe, saying nothing about Ukraine. Ukraine is being destroyed right now.
Well, at the same time, they've been holding back Russia. He's taken about 18% of the territory. Finally, in terms of Russia, I mean, Putin has had to rely on Kim Jong-un and get 10,000 North Korean soldiers. Now the reports he's relying on the Houthis. I mean, some say the Russian army has been decimated. They've had hundreds of thousands of losses that without a loss of an American life, the Allies have basically whittled down and practically destroyed the Russian army.
So I respectfully disagree with this characterization, Eric. You know, I'm a former intelligence officer. My intelligence assessment, and it is shared by multiple experts, is that no, the Russian army has not been decimated. In fact, the Russian army, from the standpoint of combat potential, which is calculated by a combination of weapon systems, armed forces, the capacity of military-industrial complex to reproduce, to scale up, and defense economics, Ukraine is massively outgunned and outmanned. The Russian military-industrial complex is right now working on a 24/7 basis, 3 shifts a day, pumping out those missile systems. Why is that? It's because Putin has transitioned the Russian military and economy on a wartime footing 7 years prior to invading Ukraine. And I personally briefed NATO, Obama's White House, National Security Council, STRATCOM, EUCOM, and all of these key pieces of the U.S. national security community about what was coming, right, at the highly classified level. And yet, what the Pentagon has decided to do is use Ukraine effectively as a human shield to protect the Europeans who didn't want to pay for their own security.
And finally, quickly, it seems like a standoff. How do you think this will end? What do you see happening in the next year?
Well, hopefully, President Trump will come in and settle this. He is the only president that Putin fears, the only U.S. president, for multiple reasons. One of them is the U.S. Russian intelligence designated Trump as unpredictable, which means that when Trump negotiates, the Russians will not be able to tell whether he's bluffing or not, because the Russians are in excellent position to negotiate, the Ukrainians are not. But we have 60 days still when Biden, has his finger on the nuclear button, and Biden, multiple experts designated him as cognitively impaired. So we're in a very perilous situation.
Well, that's not exactly fair to say that. And others say that he's been able to maneuver this appropriately without a loss of American life. We'll see what happens. Rebecca Koffler, good to see you.
I'd like to know from you guys' point of view how you guys are feeling about this actual story with the whole situation with the war. Look like it's heading towards that situation with the U.S. being involved. We kind of got to just be in our own kind of momentum and kind of just do our own kind of thing. But more importantly, it's not looking good whatsoever with our involvement. Got to keep our nose into everything that's going on. I'm not feeling it whatsoever with this whole situation. When Trump get in office, we got to see what he's going to work and put some sanctions or whatever case it be and have them renegotiate the table and kind of just let this go. Because wars are tough. Wars, you can go for long periods of time when it comes to wars just in general. And we should have learned that lesson when it came to the Iraqi war as well as the Afghanistan war. We're still in Afghanistan dealing with the situation, same in Iraq. And sometimes it's just kind of the situation, just less bygones be bygones. If things got to get switched up, it got to get switched up. I understand we're the world police and we got to keep things at bay, but it's not looking good with Biden's trying to sabotage everything on his way out the door. From his own personal opinion, it's not cool whatsoever. Hopefully he'll figure out what the next steps will be. Once Trump gets in office, he gets to clean up patrol for that first year, and then from there for the other 3 years, it will be just damage control, switching the FBI, getting everything in order. More importantly, just getting his full superstar cabinet together to get things in motion and turn things around. But I'd like to know from you guys' personal opinion. Chime down the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.